in that. That's my intro.
That's a great intro. Well, welcome everyone to the Awful Takes podcast. Another album review.
Double feature.
We're recording these back to back
to back to you.
And we're excited. We are very, very excited. This is really cool, talking about music and stuff. It just, come on. Everyone has music that they listen to. Everyone has their favorite artists and things. And you can really get to know someone super personally and understand a bit about them by just asking, who are your favorite artists? What are your favorite songs? What are your favorite albums? Things like that. Or even just being in their car and they put on a song says a lot, you know?
Really, though, yeah.
I love that. I love doing that. And obviously it just took us a little while to start talking about music, but man, we're excited. So thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you're joining us on YouTube or Spotify, thank you and welcome. We have timestamps below. If you want to skip around, we'll maybe break down the tracks or something like that. Check it out. One thing that I'll preference first of all, like the last review, we are gonna stay away from scoring albums. I feel like slapping a number on an album can just be kind of a disservice. You know, I feel like, again, albums, you may rate it a 5 out of 10 when you first listen to it, and then after years later, you know, it changes. You know, so
yeah.
I just feel like trying to encompass everything in an album by strictly just putting a number on it. Come on, like let's not do that.
Yeah, and it's much more personal compared to film also.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's okay.
But thank you guys for joining us.
Who are you?
My name's Nabahi. Oh my God.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sergata Productions.
And we are lovers of music, and we are here to talk about it. And we also talk about movies as well. We thought a great way to start our kind of music reviews is talk about our favorite albums of last year. What was something that you just kept coming back to over and over? What was something that you just can now service as a memoir of that time in your life? You know, oftentimes I listen to albums that to me, it just brings me back to that moment in my life, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that with music. So we're going to be getting into it. Thank you for joining us. And please, if you have a favorite album of last year, leave it in the description.
Share with us.
And I'll definitely be trying to add more music to my listening space. You know, I'm always on the hunt for new music and trying to broaden my range. So leave that in the comments. I would love to see it. All right, Wallied, what are we going to be talking about?
Oh, man. This is one I've been wanting to talk about for such a long time. So today we're talking about Charli xcx's BRAT. So hopefully everybody had a great BRAT summer last year.
Nice.
So to give a bit of a history of my relationship with Charli xcx's music, I got into Charli xcx when I was 16. It was actually during COVID, and it was her album How I'm Feeling Now that made me really fall in love with her music. Some of my favorite tracks from that album are like Forever, Claws, Party for You, C2O, a ton of really great tracks. It's like, I guess, like a pandemic pop album type of thing, but it portrays loneliness in such a really incredible, unique way. And it was after that I started listening more and more to her music. She was my introduction to a lot of pop. And her album also, Charli, from 2019, is also incredible. The best way I can really describe it, it's like the past, present, and future of pop all put into one. And she gets so much out of every single feature and collaboration that she has on that album, with all 15 tracks just being just top notch. And then her previous album before this was Crash, which I really liked, which was kind of more her kind of mainstream pop album, and a lot of people are kind of mixed on it. It's not as strong as some of her other albums, but for me, it's pretty solid. There's some tracks I enjoy from it, like Good Ones and the track with Rina Sawayama. And then my personal favorites of hers also being the mixtapes she released, Pop 2 and Number One Angel, which are two different mixtapes. One is a lot more hyper pop, industrial focused, and a ton of incredible features on it. And then Number One Angel is kind of like a mix of both the hyper pop stuff and also just kind of like the mainstream accessible pop that she was kind of doing around that time. And they're both really, really amazing. She gets so much, again, out of the collaborators she works with. The producers she ended up working with, Sophie and A.G. Cook, who were part of the PC music scene at that time. They just have like a really great dynamic, and they clearly know what they're working with Charli xcx. And of course, the Vroom Vroom EP is also amazing too. And so going into this album, from the moment I heard Von Dutch, because it was released as a teaser, I knew right away that I was going to be in for a ride. And she just kills it on the track. I'll get into more of why I love that track. And then as the teasers were coming out more and more, I just knew right away. I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be like some of her best. And I ended up listening to the album a couple days after it came out. And I just loved it. I was like, this is probably my favorite album of hers since Charli. And right away, I just was like, wow. Like, I didn't even know you could even take these club sounds and pop sounds and somehow make it simple yet super complex, you know? And there's an interesting juxtaposition that you hear throughout the album. So there's a lot I'm ready to get into with this album. So Nabahi, I know you were kind of more of like a Charli xcx newcomer, I guess. So I guess kind of what was kind of going through your head with this album? How were you familiar at all with Charli xcx or anything?
I am very much a newcomer. I am very much a first-time listener. Obviously, you hear some of the hits over the years of Charli's name and stuff, or features, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I had always heard her name, and I always heard her voice and kind of had that distinct sound of what she sounds like in my head. And then I just remember hearing about this album when it came out, and it obviously just took the world by storm, and you just heard about it for so long and you heard such good things. The only thing that just stopped me listening to it was at the time, I kind of do this when it comes to things that do kind of attain that pop culture moment. I kind of like to wait, and I like to kind of let that, you know, not be my driving force into what I'm expecting, you know, because sometimes I feel like we can disservice art and artists in that way, to where it's like, well, everyone's calling this a 10 out of 10. This isn't a 10 out of 10. What are you talking about? Everyone's saying this is the best of this time period. No, it's not, you know, things like that. And I'm just like, I don't want to go in with those expectations, and, you know, it could fall short. So I kind of waited with this album, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to wait to listen to it. The only song I did hear beforehand was that song Girl it was a rendition she did with Lorde.
Oh, Girl's so confusing. Yeah.
That was the only one I had heard, and that was it. I think I only heard it like a couple times. Obviously, I'm just a big Lorde fan, and I just was like, all right, let me check that song out. And I did, and I really enjoyed it. And it was obviously great hearing Lorde sing over synths and stuff again. So yeah, that was kind of my whole experience beforehand. And I just wanted to give it the time of day, and I just wanted to wait. I didn't want to have super high expectations. So when Wallied mentioned it was his favorite album of the year, I was like, perfect. This will be a great kind of time to just go in. The hype's died down. Obviously, you still hear about it. And now, you know, awards season's coming around, things like that.
Grammys, yeah.
So, you know, we're probably going to hear about it even more. Yeah. First time listen through, this is worth the hype I was hearing. 100%. Like I couldn't believe how cohesive this album feels, and some of the songs like just totally have that like just perfect club vibe for me. And club music is something that's new to me right now. Obviously, I'll mention I do a little delving into the world of DJing. I'm not great. No, by no means am I great. I honestly am probably the worst DJ you've ever heard. But in kind of learning how to DJ, you kind of get an appreciation for different types of music, which has been great for me because I always was very closed off into what I like as music. And now that I'm getting more into like that club type EDM electronic music, this album really, really worked for me in that sense. And it just has some absolutely great moments on it. And the production is just top notch. It's insane. It really is insane. Crazy. So yeah, that's kind of my whole preamble of going into this album.
Sick. That's great to hear. So yeah, we'll start off. We'll go track by track like we did with the last album review. So yeah, 360. What could I say about this track that hasn't been said? It's a banger. Like the opening synths, dang. I just love those synths. And once Charli comes in with just this fantastic like opening, you already know kind of like what you're in for with the lyrics. I'm your favorite reference, baby. I'm so Julia. I'm in the mirror. Do you like what you see? It's a kind of like a fascinating, interesting kind of portrayal of like someone who's evolved into like a brat pretty much. You know, she's kind of like the bad girl. She's kind of the club girl, you know, and you get a taste of it in this first track and it fits so perfectly. It's short and sweet. Doesn't overstay its welcome. Nabahi, how are you kind of feeling about 360?
No, I agree. Right away, just that constant beat throughout the song, it just serves like just this foundation for Charli to come in and sing and kind of go with that flow, you know? Mm-hmm. I love it when songs have that foundation and that, you know, just constant kind of rhythm and stuff. And right away, I feel like this just encompasses the whole album in such a great way. Sometimes I feel like that's what the opening track is kind of meant for, you know? And I'm just always a sucker for opening tracks. I don't know what it is. Like for me, opening tracks can just say a lot, you know, and they can do a lot if you give that the time of day, you know? And she absolutely did with this song. The constant bass, the little keyboard riffs, I was just loving it. And then not even just to mention Charli's voice on top of all that. It just takes it. And it takes, you know, what some people might say is just, you know, it's a foundation of a song, but she takes it and does so much more with it. And I love her use of like vocal effects, you know, that auto-tune stuff or whatever it is.
Mostly auto-tune.
It's just great. Like it really just has a style to it that you don't really expect for kind of like a pop culture moment type album. You know, this wasn't, I really didn't, I was like, wow, this is just something that is so different from stuff that's really trendy and really popular, you know, right now and over these past couple of years, that I'm really glad people are liking this type of music, you know?
Yeah.
So this song was just great. And I definitely I'm going to find myself coming back to it a lot.
Oh, sick. Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. Not too much to say with it. It's just a really fantastic intro. Mm-hmm. Really just gives you an idea of kind of like what you're in for with the album. Also want to mention the music video is fantastic too.
Oh, nice.
I love the music video for it a lot. So check that out too if you have the time. All right, next track I want to get into, Club Classics. This track gives you an idea of like the club banger type of sound that she's going for with the album. And already just the vocal sample that comes in, the way those synths just pop in. And then, of course, the intro Charli gives where she's all, when I go to the club, I want to hear those club classics. Club classics, club classics is so, so awesome. And already you're getting an idea of like this character Charli's portraying with the song. So yeah, Nabahi, first thoughts on this one. How'd you feel?
Yeah, what a way to echo the overall feel of the album. And obviously just kind of a bit more literally club classics, you know, like this is what she's going for. And what a smart idea throughout the album. There are parts like this. In my DJing kind of experience, something that I really love is just looping. And I love how loops can really evolve, and you can have that be like a basis for what you're going to do. And obviously right away in the intro, you just hear that loop of whatever that sample or whatever it is. Yeah. And I just love it. Like that just to me speaks to me as like, yeah, this is that club stuff, you know, like, and the lyrics are great. They're fun. And the overall feeling of this song is just like, damn, like, this is like unlike anything, you know. It's taking all of these aspects of production, vocals, that club music and vibe, and really just kind of throwing it all together. And I'm glad that this track doesn't feel similar to the opener. With stuff like with the opener, it kind of has that like bouncy beat, you know, that you kind of expect. And it's almost like when you're walking up to the club, you hear it from the outside, you know. This song is different from that, and it is a nice kind of juxtaposition of like, okay, in that first track, you know, I'll lay down what you're expecting in the album, but then this second one comes along and it's like, no, we're gonna do other stuff with it too, you know. Yeah, and I really, really enjoyed it. This is a great song.
Yeah, I almost see it as like a welcome to the club type of song, and I feel like for me, it's like, this song just makes me want to get up and dance, honestly. Like every time I hear this song, I'm just like, I just bang my head like crazy. Especially when those like wobbly synths come in the second half, and like those bright synths that come in like after the first like 30 seconds. I loved so much. Honestly, feels like you're in the club listening to this song. And it's like almost kind of like an homage to those like 90s, 2000s like club songs, almost, you know, the Miami bass kind of like sound from that era, you know, almost. It's almost like a tribute to that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
great track.
Incredible. And so the third track we get into is also another change of pace, and you get like a really fascinating juxtaposition with the song. So this one is Sympathy is a Knife. And this is a song where the album kind of takes a very surprisingly dark turn with its lyrics, and you kind of find out like she's kind of broken as a person. She's very depressed. She's having these inner monologues, and she's kind of using this club life as almost like an outlet, or as like a way to mask those feelings. For me, at least that was my interpretation going into the track. So Nabahi, what was kind of your takeaway with Sympathy is a Knife?
This is one of my favorites off the album. I love the keyboards in this. It's like something that just sounds like a Moog keyboard. It's just going all over the place. And then you have just that bass constant, like just kind of thumping, but it's not too overbearing. I feel like she did a good job of, and the production team obviously, of like restraining, not going too far with it. This song, I could see people kind of seeing it sounding like messy or whatever, but for some reason, like the way everything is mixed, it might be overly busy, but I feel like it works so well. And especially with Charli's vocals, it helps guide you through what some people might call like, you know, kind of more messy production, but man, this is one of my favorites. Like just her vocal delivery, her lines, her lyrics and everything in this song is something that's great. I definitely am going to be coming back to this song specifically. This one was like, kind of like how you're saying, it's like a surprise, you know, like the first two songs have that kind of straightforward type of vibe to them. Second song kind of takes it in a different direction, but this song I feel like is like personal, a bit more personal, you know? I just love it. I love those kind of dark lyrics and stuff. I love it when, you know, you have kind of like pop music, but then also that personal side to it.
It's an interesting, really great juxtaposition that you hear not only on this song, but just throughout the album. And I love Charli's vocal performance, where it's almost like this kind of cry for help. And I love how she's using the auto-tune as like almost like a way to hide the feelings of depression and anxiety. And I just really caught me off guard when I first heard it. And I really just love that a lot about the track.
Definitely a lyric that I love, and I just want to mention, and just the way, again, the rhyme scheme and the way it carries you through the song is probably, you know, because I couldn't even be her if I tried. I'm opposite. I'm on the other side. That's great. That's great. And again, her flow through that is just like, again, you're hearing this production, you're hearing all this stuff going on, and Charli's vocals is like, nope, I got you by the hand and I'm taking you through this experience. You know, it's great. And that's just, to me, genius to have that and have, like, again, her vocals and her melodies and stuff just be that guiding hand through this album. It's just great. And I don't know. This song was really great for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad to hear you loved it.
Yeah.
Incredible track. Very big standout for sure. So then we get to the next track, which is a fantastic interlude, is I Might Say Something Stupid.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's a lot more minimal compared to the rest of the stuff on the album, with just like this really great synth work and these really incredible lyrics of her almost feeling under pressure about like meeting a new person at the club. You know, she's almost trying to find love in this sea of people at this club that she's at, you know, and I really loved it. It's probably one of my favorite interludes I've heard in a long while. So yeah, Nabahi, what was kind of the takeaway from that?
Yeah, I feel like this was a nice first 3 tracks, amped up. You're feeling very a part of this ride. And this was a nice kind of bring it back down, kind of tie in a bit more emotions and things into what you want this album to be. And it was a nice break point. Obviously, the club stuff's great, bangers and everything. Love those first 3 tracks. But this one is a nice kind of, you know, just step back down. Like, let's bring it back down. Let's say something a bit more personal. The only thing I would say is I wish it was a little bit longer,
sure.
Especially towards the end, hearing her deliver that final line. And I don't know if I belong here anymore. I was just like, all right, you know, and then it just ended.
Abrupt. Yeah,
I was like, dang it. But overall, it's still really good for me. I just
for sure.
kind of wish we could expand on it just a little more. But it serves its purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I think the reason it works a lot and I feel like it's perfect that it's short is that it's just almost like it's her spiraling into like that madness or inner monologue, but then she kind of like snaps out of it on the next track. And I feel like that was kind of the reason why it really worked for me, for sure. Because I felt that same way, but then when it was like, it cut to the next track, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. That next track I think is really great. So Talk Talk is where we get another really fantastic banger. It goes back to the kind of club sound that we've been talking about. And this is kind of the track where she ends up kind of like finding almost like a true love, you know, at least that's how it's portrayed throughout the track. And I love the little line where she's all, talk to me in French, talk to me in Spanish, talk to me in your whatever language. And I just thought that was like really, really awesome, you know? And it's like, again, it's like kind of like a snap back to like this kind of fantasy that she's having almost with her being in the club and her being this kind of like bad girl type almost. So yeah, Nabahi, how are you kind of feeling? Takeaways?
Yeah, this one has a lot of those production elements that you would hear behind just like a simple DJ board, you know, with the high pass, low pass filters, the different reverb and effects like that. And again, it further adds to that. Yeah, this is kind of that all aspects of the club vibe. You know, I'm really glad it's not just the kind of same EDM stuff that you hear. It kind of uses all aspects of what you could take away from being a club album or DJ thing, you know?
Yeah.
I really love it. And this one has that kind of catchy chorus, you know, just really just you kind of find yourself humming in your head and singing along to. And her vocal delivery on it is great. This was a really good track. And again, production for me is just, at this point, was just standing out to me. I was just like, wow, like none of these songs really sound the same, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, especially for a dance album, because sometimes you could have that problem of some of it sounds too similar, but she finds a way, her and her producers just find a way to make the sounds even more unique. And especially when the chorus comes in with this song, just those hard hitting drums and those synths.
Yeah.
And I love how like the synths go through like a flanger at the end, or like a kind of like, it makes it like a flanger high pass filter. It was so sick. And it's like just such an incredible way to end the song. Yeah, easily one of my favorites. Another one that just makes me want to just get up and dance, honestly.
No, this is a great track.
Which fits so perfectly. And so we then get to the next track, Von Dutch, which I mentioned earlier as being, this was actually, funny enough, the first teaser. And so I kind of didn't have too much of an idea of like what it was going to be. And so when I heard it in the context of the album, I was like, okay, this song is perfect. You know, it's definitely her, like Charli, I feel like going back to her ways and puts this kind of like bad, tough girl image on, where the last track, she was kind of a little bit more vulnerable with this kind of first love that she's having. She's kind of doing like the big, grand, like vibrant type of bad girl almost with Von Dutch. And it works super well for the track, and it's just kind of her going back to her ways with this just crazy like synth, like I don't know if it's like a sample or something, but it's really cool, and like just the drums and just like the vocal performance is incredible. So Nabahi, how are you kind of feeling about Von Dutch?
Yeah, this one really great. I could definitely see why you'd want to show this one off first. Mm-hmm. There's a lot production wise going on in this song, like just like the echoing of the I'm your number one, and then you just hear like this kind of like buzzing like coming in and out, like this high pitched and it's just great. But then it like flows between, you know, both of your ears, and you're just like, holy crap, this is great. And it has that build to it that I love in songs, where it's just like you're just along for the ride, and you're just like, where's this song going to take me? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a great track. I could definitely see after hearing this, it's like, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do with this album?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I could definitely see the anticipation behind this. Like if this was my first step into this world, to like, all right, well, where are we going to go? You know?
Exactly. And I think another reason why I kind of felt that way with the lyrics too, like her going back to this like tough girl, like kind of like putting a mask on almost, is like the line that she says at the beginning of that, it's okay that you're jealous of me. And then of course the chorus I hear throughout, the I'm your number one, is her kind of just like showing off almost to this guy, or to just try to like kind of mask again those kind of feelings. You know, she's trying to be very thick-skinned throughout the song, and I was just very surprised with it. And just hearing it through the context of the album, it's like, wow, it definitely like kind of adds more complexity to the character. Mm-hmm. I really loved it.
Great track.
Incredible. Yeah, awesome beat. So then we get to the next track, Everything is Romantic, which is another surprising one, where just like, again, it sounds so different from the last track. Mm-hmm. And I love just the follow-up where you kind of see her spiraling into the bad girl character, as she kind of repeats like love again, throughout the second half. And I kind of see that as she's kind of going through like a series of relationships throughout like the song almost, you know, as like kind of it gets more toxic and toxic as I kind of see it as it's going along. Nabahi, thoughts? Thoughts.
This one's great. This one, it incorporates different things that I love. Obviously, the build up, it's there, you know, like from the beginning, you're along for the ride, hearing that kind of like violin sample or whatever is going on. It's great. And you're like, all right. And then the kind of beat comes in. But then also you think you've heard everything. You think like, okay, this is kind of like the ceiling of the song, you know?
Yeah.
And then you get to that kind of like pre-chorus where it loops that fall in love part, and it's just like the spazziness, and then boom, goes into like this consistent bass kick thing.
Yeah.
I love that. And it really, again, like this is like just like a club song, yet there's so much more going on. And it's just like, it's just like, how do you think of that? You know, like never have I seen someone take that kind of club production and vibe and everything and just totally like run with it, you know? Because you would almost feel like if you were going for that sound, you might limit yourself and put yourself in a box. But because of the team and obviously Charli knowing where they want to go with this, you get surprises like this song, and you get, totally diverse sound, and each song kind of has its own vibe and stuff. And I could never do it, you know, like if I had to make like a club album, by track 2 it would sound exactly like track 1. Like the fact that you keep getting surprised, and you know, like you're already so many tracks in, and it's just like, wow, like this is, each song has its own flair to it. And
yeah, exactly.
This was one of my favorites that definitely goes somewhere in that second part that you're just not ready for.
Yeah, and I kind of love that the song starts out like the first half is like, it's kind of like a more traditional pop song, you know, compared to like a lot of the album. And then it's like the second half, it turns into like this really crazy club banger of someone just like spiraling into that like club life almost, you know. It fits with like just the lyrics that it's going for. And then just the track, I just love how it just builds up and it just kind of explodes into this just crazy outro almost, you know.
Yeah.
And I just love that so much.
No, it is great.
Then we get to the track Rewind, which I really, really love. And it explores more of the character Charli's doing with this brat figure. And it's showing a more vulnerable side. It's probably the most vulnerable we've gotten on the album. And it's her kind of like reminiscing on times like when she was younger. You know, you get tracks about how like she didn't really eat enough, or that she was kind of comparing herself to other people. And it's a really fascinating portrayal that I've seen of imposter syndrome portrayed in music, with this really like surprisingly like kind of upbeat club song, you know, that's juxtaposed with these lyrics of her being very personal. And it's almost kind of like a diary placement almost when you hear the song. So yeah, how did you feel about Rewind, taking it back?
Yeah, this is one of the standouts on the album for me. This was one right away when I heard that intro, her vocal just comes in right away. Then the beat builds itself behind it, and the production just totally starts evolving and everything. Some people might say, oh, the little rewind sample is cheesy. I don't know why it worked for me. Everything in this song just worked for me. This was a standout for sure. And man, I just love her lyrics. And again, the chorus and everything is just simple enough, but it's catchy, you know?
Yeah.
And I still feel like there's a lot being said. I don't know everyone's take with this song in general, if it's one of the more popular ones or not. But this is definitely one of my favorites. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. You know, it's to the point, serves its purpose. And I feel like if someone else were to kind of catch on to, and different artists were to catch on to this, you know, similar sound and idea, I feel like they would definitely drag it out maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's standing out to me as Charli as an artist is she knows when to stop. You know, I feel like so many artists would just be like, oh, that one song, let's do that. And then let's do it again. Let's
indulge more in it.
Yeah. Let's do another track similar to, you know, and I just feel like, no, like each song on this album is just going in different places left and right. It's just like, yet it feels cohesive, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of my favorite tracks for sure.
Nice. And I also think that Rewind fits perfectly too, because it's almost like her kind of taking a trip down memory lane, you know, just like just randomly having, again, just kind of those inner monologues throughout. But all of a sudden I feel like I see it as almost like kind of like a daydream into like a glimpse and window into like what this person's life was before her doing this club life brat image, you know. And I really loved that about the song. And it's definitely a lot poppier too, for sure, compared to everything else on the album, which I really loved also.
Definitely.
So then we get to probably, I don't even know if I could pick a favorite track with this album because all the tracks are incredible. But it's the track So I, which is a very incredible, touching tribute to Sophie, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. And she was one of Charli's mentors, getting more experimental, like I mentioned at the beginning with Vroom Vroom and Pop 2 and Number One Angel. She definitely kind of like helped her to kind of craft her sound. And even without the context, I feel like this track still works because you can almost see it as like somebody, as like maybe a mentor figure, like a mother, or maybe as like a tribute to maybe like a friend or something. How did you kind of take away this track?
Yeah. If I'm thinking favorite track on the album, this one is probably it. When I first heard it, her voice just sounds very emotional. It sounds very, I didn't know the whole story behind it. But now that you say it, it makes a lot of sense. It just sounded more and more personal, but again, still having the production and everything that we loved throughout the first couple tracks. And I'm a sucker for like those consistent, like just kind of like keys, you know, just that little, like you're blending areas of like, you have your dark kind of heavier stuff, but then you have that bright kind of other side to it. And then they come together and it's like, you hear that the heavier bass, but then you hear like this little like piano kind of keyboard riff, you know, and it's just like, ooh, this is working for me really well. And then her voice is absolutely amazing. And obviously one of my favorite lines is when I'm on stage, sometimes I lie, say that I love singing these songs you left behind. I was like, wow, that's big. That's a big thing. A big statement. I don't know. Just her delivery on this song, it really affected me, you know, and it really had that emotional resonance for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is by far one of my favorite songs on the album, and I'm really happy that I heard it. Again, I don't know the reception with this track, could be people's favorite or not, but I just love it in every way. It was really awesome.
That's great to hear. One of my favorite parts about the song is when she references a song by Sophie called It's Okay to Cry, you know, and I feel like that fits so perfectly with the song because it's like, for me, this song just makes me cry every time I hear it. It's such a beautiful ballad, and it's just such a beautiful tribute to Sophie, who is just gone too soon, because a lot of the production she did for Charli, and especially like her solo music, is just like so out of this world, you know, like how she would blend pop with like industrial and ambient music and like take all of these experimental sounds and like do these really just crazy sounds that you just can't even comprehend, you know. And I love just hearing Charli just talk about her as like almost like a mentor figure throughout the track, and man, it gets me every time, you know. So it's a great tribute. So rest in peace to Sophie. So then we get to the next track. I also really love is "Girl So Confusing," which I actually didn't know the context about until I heard the remix with Lorde.
Oh, nice.
And so this was a big surprise. But when I first kind of heard it, I kind of thought the song was like her maybe comparing herself to like other kind of pop stars, I was guessing, you know. But the chorus is so catchy. And I love just the instrumental and the way like the synths just build up. It's one of my favorite things with a lot of Charli xcx songs, even like previous songs, is that she'll kind of like build this chorus up, and then like the second half, she'll take that chorus and like make like a almost kind of different new version with it. And she does it so well with like the high pass synths that you hear on the track. And again, the storytelling is great. It's really, really well done. And I love it so much, especially now hearing it the context with Lorde, and especially Lorde coming on the remix was really great. Yeah. So Nabahi, I know you're a big Lorde fan. So what was kind of going through your head with this one?
No, yeah, this one, I guess, could kind of be my intro to this whole album, and just great. This was a song that I listened to a few times, and I don't know. Again, the production on this song definitely seems a bit, kind of more heavier. Synths feel a little heavier, feel a little kind of more darker and stuff. But again, Charli uses her voice almost as like that juxtaposition instrument with the going to different pitches, going different effects and stuff. And I love that blend of the two. Again, just really both sides of the spectrum, you know, kind of coming together. I definitely could see some artists kind of being scared of that, and it's like maybe not really knowing how to make that work, but Charli finds a way to make it work in this song. And man, this is like a song you just jump to, you know. It's just absolutely great. This is definitely one of the standouts, because obviously early on I had heard this song and I remember really liking it. So
nice.
It's really awesome.
Another one that just kind of makes you just want to get up and dance too, you know.
Definitely.
It's awesome. So then we get to the next track. I'm sure you guys have probably all heard it if you have TikTok. Apple, which I'm still surprised is like a TikTok dance.
Definitely.
Not on my bingo card, but okay. But anyways, I love the kind of metaphor that I think the apple is wrought into the core. I kind of see it as like we're all kind of broken inside. You know, we all kind of have our mental and physical struggles, you know, and at our core, but on the outside, it may seem perfect. At least that's how I kind of took away the song. Great instrumental, like all of them. The synths are awesome, especially the breakdown with I think the apples running right to the chorus. So good. I can see kind of why this latched onto, I guess, more social media. So yeah, Nabahi, how did you kind of feel about Apple?
This one is really, I think this one might be the most catchy for me. Definitely hearing it, cool. I was like, all right, like I'm attaching to this, you know, very, very catchy, very melodic, says a lot, but also some parts I wish kind of went a little bit further. Mm-hmm. Like I like after, the whole to the airport part where she's like a little bit deeper is like, I'm going to drive all night. I wish that kind of went just maybe a little longer.
Definitely.
Just because I like it when artists kind of go for different deliveries, different vocal ranges and stuff. And I just wish that was just did a little bit more with it. But overall, I just really enjoyed this song. And I definitely think it's one of the more catchy songs. I obviously didn't know about the whole TikTok thing. So now hearing it, I'm like, okay, this makes a lot of sense.
Neither did I, but it kept showing up on my feed. And I was like, wait, what?
And was this one a single beforehand?
So this one actually wasn't a single. Oh, wow. So the only 3 that were actually singles was Von Dutch, 360, and then Club Classics and Back to Back. Those were like the only 4 that were released as singles. So yeah, it was kind of surprising when after the album came out, this kind of just latched on just kind of everywhere, you know? But I'm glad people are really loving it. I'm glad people are enjoying it. Hopefully it doesn't get overplayed for other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a really, really fantastic track. I love the breakdown in the second half with the crazy little like chopped vocal samples. I thought that was like really awesome.
Yeah. So I love the outro too. It's like those moments in like club music where you give yourself time to kind of blend into another song. You know, you have that 20 seconds that kind of loops and does the same thing. But also I think it gives a good part for the instrumentals and everything to stand out and do its own thing, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I love it when artists give time for the music, not just lyrics. You know, lyrics and everything are great. And obviously you love hearing songs that you can sing along to, but I'm glad that she gave moment for the instrumental to stand on its own, because it really does just work on itself. You know, if I heard this type of beat and stuff, I'd be like, oh wow, like what is this? Where's this gonna go? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that outro. It was really cool.
Yeah. Sick. Heck yeah, man. Awesome. So then we get to the track B2B, or back to back to back to back to you. Track is fantastic. It goes back to the club sound that we were talking about earlier in the first half. Really great song. This is kind of, I feel like the back to back to back is kind of her going back to those like toxic relationships that she was kind of referencing on Everything is Romantic, you know, where she's loving again and loving again. I feel like this is kind of like her kind of repeating those same mistakes that she was doing earlier on the album. And I was honestly kind of surprised about that. And then the second half is very hypnotic with like when those like little spacey synths come in and everything. And it just kind of blows up into this crazy club track. So yeah, what was kind of your takeaway with B2B?
Really enjoyed this one. Again, you're over 10 tracks in by now. And again, still surprising you. You really can't overstate that enough. Like that's to me is just absolutely great. And I love it when vocalists do that blend of, you know, catchiness, and then they kind of end a verse with like high pitch, you know. Maybe it's like a form of envy for me because I can't sing that high, but man, that's great. And it's just like catchy, you know, just bouncing. And then obviously it kind of evolves and then kind of de-evolves towards the end. And again, just I love it. The little loop back. I don't know. Like to me, I love that. Like I again, in my DJ stuff that I do, I like looping a lot. I think that's always really, really fun. So anytime on this album where it have a little loop, I love it because it's like you're just anticipating. You're like, all right, where's this gonna go?
Yeah.
And then obviously it just kind of comes back in, and you get the drums and the kick and everything. And again, like production wise, some of the instruments and things do kind of sound like that typical kind of club beat and stuff. And I feel like normal artists would want to stay away from that, but they leaned into it on this album, like the little hi-hats, the little kind of claps and stuff. They do kind of sound like your typical kind of club stuff, but again, the way it's packaged and everything really, really works.
Yeah. Like kind of recontextualizes the kind of club sound that you're usually typical of and expecting.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we get to Mean Girls, which is kind of like her going back to the brat, bad girl. She's kind of putting that image on again. And it's almost kind of like an anthem sort of like that sort of, especially with like the kind of perspective you get of like somebody who's kind of spiraled into that brat girl, basically. And you kind of see it's not the best, it's kind of like a disgusting life almost. So yeah, Nabahi, how did you kind of take that track?
Yeah, it felt like more of what we had been hearing earlier on. Like you said, it kind of is bringing things back. I like this song, bringing in this production and everything, and the vocals, and just tying it all together, I think is the real success of this album as a whole, making all these things work together. And I love the pre-chorus, just super catchy. This for me was a really good song. Definitely going to be coming back to this one. It's really awesome.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I love the little piano bit that comes in the middle portion, and then just the way it spirals with the synths is so awesome. And then, so we get to the second to the last track on the album. I think about it all the time, which is kind of like we were talking about earlier with the interlude track, is that it gets more existential. It's a lot more minimal. There's no auto-tune on this one, surprisingly. And it's her kind of thinking about her future, thinking about this guy that she's with, and possibly having a baby, kind of moving past the brat girl and kind of being much more intimate, personal, and vulnerable. And it's a surprisingly very short track, and it just feels like the ending almost. So how did you kind of take this one away?
Yeah, this one, one of my favorites off the album. It kind of strips away all the production, all the heavier synths kind of stuff, and really simple. It's just her vocals and then kind of this ongoing kind of beat. I really enjoyed this one, and I didn't know about the whole auto-tune thing, but now that you're saying that, it's like, oh, okay, wow, that's actually really cool. But this one was a standout for me for sure, especially coming towards the later end of the album. It's like, wow, this is like a nice kind of surprising you in a way, Like,
yeah, definitely.
You're so many tracks in, and it's still just like, we're going to throw this one in here to kind of throw you off a little bit. Really liked it. And this helps for me with kind of the album re-listenability. I definitely see myself, obviously I have the songs which I love and everything, but I definitely see myself kind of playing this album as a whole. I mean, just really kind of listening to it front to back. And songs like this that kind of step to the side a little bit always help me with that re-listenability, just because I'm always kind of like anticipating that switch, if that makes sense.
I can kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah, this song was really good.
Nice. Yeah, it definitely could pick up a lot more on like re-listens and everything like that. And not only that, it's just like, I like that the track is kind of short, because like, again, like I was mentioning earlier with the interlude track, it's like, it's kind of her getting in this existential inner monologue thought, and then it just kind of like snaps you back into like that club type of sound. And so we get to the final track of the album, 365, which I kind of find funny. It's a nice little remixed somewhat version of 360, but much more of like a club banger. And yeah, I don't know, listening to this track, it's like, it feels like the end credits to like a movie almost, with just the really awesome vocal samples that you hear. Again, I like that it turns 360 and it just kind of makes it into a club version. And I kind of just see this as like her going back to the club style for a little bit until she decides to kind of go and get rid of that brat girl style that she's doing, and she's kind of waiting to become a mother, she's trying to just take advantage of the time she has and just trying to just have a good time while not having an existential crisis. And that's kind of how I see 365. So yeah, what was kind of thoughts on the last song?
Great. I love it when artists have like that kind of reprise on albums. Like you hear the song in the beginning and then towards the later end you hear it and it's like in a different way. I'm a sucker for that stuff. So for me, hearing this part at the end, I was like, oh, perfect. Like this is awesome. Like you wrapped everything up in the best way possible and you put a nice little bow on it and there it is, you know? Like this is the album as a whole, front to back. Nothing else needs to be said because it's like it's so concise in what it does and what it says. And I personally don't mind it when artists kind of revisit those songs and stuff. I know people could say it's like repetitive or whatever, but I think there's enough of a different way they go about this song compared to the intro to where it still feels new. It's great, but it's also like a kind of remember moment, you know?
Yeah.
So I really liked it. This was great. This was a great kind of end to the album, you know?
Yeah. And it's a nice, like, comes back to a full circle moment too for the record and everything, you know? I really love it, really dig it. And yeah, that was BRAT. So yeah, this is my favorite album of 2024. It's tied between this and Charli for me for being my favorite album. I'm go between the two every day, but man, it is still crazy how I'm like 6 albums into her discography and she can still just put out incredible music like this, you know. It's so crazy to me that she's still taking all these risks and finding sounds that are familiar and just seeing how far she can take so many of the concepts and just go crazy with it, you know. And I love it so much. And I'm honestly excited to see what Charli xcx does next, because I honestly after this album, I'm not really sure what direction she's going to be going into next. So yeah, whatever she decides to do next, I will definitely be there for it. Yeah, this album's perfect to me. I think every track just works. There's so much to just chew in with the production, with the lyrics, with the character that she's going for with this album. You know, it's like a deconstruction of the BRAT character, and I love that so much. Yeah, it's incredible. Really great album. About he kind of closing thoughts and everything.
Big surprise for me, man. I wish I had started listening to this sooner. It is worth the hype. It is worth it, what everyone's been saying. And it honestly just surpassed my expectations. And every song has its purpose. Nothing really kind of does anything the same. Yet it all feels in that same vibe, you know, that same kind of sound. I could definitely see other artists going about this and not really
getting the point. And I feel like they'll put themselves in a box, but I feel like Charli was able to go in with her team and everything and totally fill out the space of that club sound. I could definitely see other artists having a real hard time with that, but for some reason each song has its own personality, its own stamp and everything, that overall for me this album just works as a whole. I'm obviously going to be listening to this album as a whole, front to back, more and more. But I'll definitely just say my standout tracks immediately that are going to be going on my daily playlist is Sympathy is a Knife, Rewind, So and I Think About It All the Time. Sick.
Those are definitely the ones for me that right away on Spotify, I click the plus button. I'm like, this is going in the playlist. But I definitely see myself listening to this album as a whole. And I understand there's deluxe versions, expansions to this album, so I'll probably check those out as well.
Yes, there is a remix album, the BRAT, and it's completely different, but still BRAT. I haven't heard the whole thing, but I've heard a few of the remixes. They're okay. Maybe it's just because I just think the songs are already like fantastic and great as they already are.
It's just like a different version.
Yeah, almost kind of like different versions of the tracks pretty much. You have some all right features, some that are cool, some that are just like, I don't know if that fits. Like there's one with Young Lean and Robin. Young Lean's he's fine, but I think Robin kills it. I really love her on the track.
Nice.
There's a really sick remix of Guess, which is one of the bonus tracks on this album that has Billie Eilish on it, and she kills it. I know it's become one of the bigger tracks, obviously, because of Billie, but yeah, it's fantastic. The other 2 bonus tracks I think are also great. Hello Goodbye is a really great, like kind of like late mid 2000s, like kind of pop track.
Oh yeah.
And then Guess is great. Like I mentioned, it's like a kind of like a club banger type of thing. And then Spring Breakers is like a nice, like kind of like messy club type of song, you know, that kind of leans more into the BRAT side of the album.
One thing I want to say with the overall general reception and the big pop culture moment with this album as a whole, I really hope the takeaway that artists see is just production, you know, like
really
lean into it, you know, like take notes with this album. I really hope we see this as a defining moment in pop culture. And I hope other artists take inspiration from this and other producers take inspiration from this. Like there's nothing wrong with having your stamp sound and having your, you know, known producer kind of repertoire, but take note of this, you know, like there's different ways you can go about things, and yeah, it can sound similar, but it won't sound derivative and the same, you know. I really am excited to see 10 years from now, looking back and seeing how this moment shaped 2020, you know, the whole decade we're in. And I feel like this was needed. And I feel like this really can have such a great impact moving forward. And I'm just really excited to see that. And I hope artists kind of take note and kind of break down and re-examine what they want to do and how they want to push music kind of forward, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Because I just feel like right now, some of the top artists that I listen to kind of just fall back on the tricks. They kind of fall back and do the same thing.
Or the trends.
Or they try to recapture something or service a certain audience or something. But it's like, no, like take notes. Like this is like, again, coming from a DJ standpoint, I could definitely see someone, especially myself, like, aren't you limiting your sound by trying to stick to that club vibe? And it's like, nope, like you can go absolutely to the wall with it. Yeah. And I really hope, again, this takes music in a new direction now. Yeah,
definitely. I am very curious to see if I guess the trends will be more dance music and kind of like the different subgenres of dance music. I wonder with this album, I wonder if that will be gaining more mainstream. So I'm very excited and curious to see where I guess the mainstream music will be going, because I know it's been in a rut for the past couple of years, especially with COVID and the popular songs from like the 80s and 90s getting big on TikTok and those kind of just being in the Billboard. So I'm very curious to kind of see with Charli, with Chappell Roan, with Sabrina Carpenter, what kind of, if we're going to be doing more like the kind of sugary pop mixed with like dance and just different styles of pop and dance. So I'm optimistic for sure about the future of pop music. So I guess I'd pick some of my standout tracks for you guys to check out. I mean, all the tracks are fantastic, but I can't say all the tracks. But ones that I'll recommend to you guys if you guys are interested checking it out. 360. I think it's a perfect opener. There's kind of a reason she released it as a single. So great song. Von Dutch, So I, Club Classics, and then I'd probably say Everything is Romantic, so you can get a bit more of an idea of what the album's about if you're curious. So those would be my tracks that I'd pick.
Awesome. I really enjoyed it. All right, everyone. As far as how we're going to move about going music in the future, we might just be doing back and forth recommendations similar to our movie recommendations, because I know there's some of my favorite albums that I want to talk about that I'd probably mention today. And for me, those are definitely worth going into in full conversations, giving them their own time of day and everything. Cool. But I just hope from these two album reviews, you kind of get a feeling for what me and Wallied like. You will definitely be more surprised with someone like Wallied's discography compared to mine. You'll very much dial in very fast what kind of sound I kind of like. Wallied is just total. He'll listen to everything. He's someone that really has such a bright knowledge and expanse of music. So it'll be nice for me to kind of get into that type of stuff. So we'll kind of discuss how we want to go about the album reviews in the future. But hopefully these two, like I said, served as a nice kind of starting point. And overall, it's just really, really kind of fun to talk about something different than movies, yet we still kind of have the same passion for.
Yeah, and I think albums too are like an underappreciated medium too. You know, I feel like you can tell cool concepts and tell great stories with the lyrics, and especially with instrumentals, you can create super incredible atmospheres that I feel like sometimes you can't with like a film, you know, so.
And again, forgive me if there are any points where I was kind of stumbling over words, things like that. This is kind of my first time explaining all the thoughts I have with music and trying to dial it in so that way normal people can understand. It's a challenge for me, but I'm trying to get there. It's just there's so much I want to say in terms of music. And again, hopefully we did a service to both of these albums. I really hope we did, and I hope you guys are going to stick along for more reviews and things like that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had an absolute blast. Hopefully you guys had a great BRAT summer. if you guys did like I did, because I listened to this album nonstop, like crazy. Nice. So yeah. Good day and good night, mates.
We'll see you on the next one.